The wind carried the scent of damp earth and pine through the small village as I stood at the threshold of my home, staring into the night. The dim glow of the lanterns flickered in the distance, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch with my thoughts. But there, beyond the quiet hum of the village, came something sharper, something unmistakable, the faint but unmistakable presence of King Alaric. His scent, a mixture of cedar and iron, punctured the stillness, carried on the chill of the evening air. He had come back, and I couldn't decide if the pounding in my chest was fear or fury as I waited for him to speak. His voice broke the silence, cold and familiar. "I have come to take my pup. Before we dive in deeper into my story of pain, please tell me your name, the city you're watching from in the comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel." We started meeting in secret. Stolen moments in forgotten corridors, whispered conversations in the gardens after dark. He made me feel special. He made me feel like maybe, just maybe, the rules didn't apply to us. Like our connection was strong enough to overcome all the barriers between us. The difference in our stations, the expectations of the court, everything. I was so naive. So incredibly, painfully naive. And then I found out I was pregnant. I remember that moment so clearly, it's like it's happening right now. Standing in my small room, staring at the undeniable signs, feeling my entire world shift beneath my feet. Terror and joy and confusion all swirling together until I couldn't tell one emotion from another. I was carrying his child. The Alpha King's child. Our child. I thought, God, I actually thought he'd be happy. I thought this would be the thing that made us real, that forced everyone to acknowledge what we had together.
I thought he'd stand by me.
Protect me.
Choose me.
I was so wrong. When I told him, I watched his face change. It was like watching a door slam shut, lock, and have the key thrown away. The warmth in his eyes, that warmth I'd come to crave like air, it just vanished, replaced by something cold. Something that looked almost like disgust, though he tried to hide it. He promised me things at first. Told me he'd take care of it, take care of us. His words were smooth, reassuring. But his eyes told a different story. And I should have listened to his eyes. Days passed. Then weeks. And slowly, painfully, I watched him pull away. The secret meetings stopped. He avoided the corridors where he knew I'd be. When we did cross paths, he looked right through me like I was invisible. Like I'd never mattered at all. Like those nights together had been nothing but a dream, or worse, a mistake he wanted to forget. And then he made it official. He didn't even have the courage to tell me himself. He sent one of his advisors to deliver the message. I was to leave the court. Quietly. Immediately. There would be a small sum of money to help me get settled somewhere far away. Somewhere no one would ask questions about an unmarried Omega with a child. The message was clear. I wasn't good enough. I didn't fit into his perfect world. Our child didn't fit into his perfect world. We were an embarrassment, a complication, a problem to be solved by throwing money at it and pretending it never existed. He abandoned us. Completely. Absolutely. Without a second thought. And you know what the worst part was? Part of me wasn't even surprised. Part of me had known all along that this was how it would end. Because people like him don't end up with people like me. That's not how fairy tales work, not real ones, anyway. So I left. What choice did I have? I took the money, not because I wanted it, but because I needed it, because I had a child to think about now, and I disappeared. I found this village, far from the capital, far from the court, far from him. A place where no one knew who I was, or where I'd come from. A place where I could start over. And I did. I built a life here. Not the life I'd imagined, not the life I dreamed about during those secret meetings in the garden, but a life nonetheless. A good life. A life that was mine. I gave birth to Kai 9 months later. Alone. No one holding my hand. No proud father pacing outside the door. Just me and a midwife who asked no questions. And when they placed my son in my arms for the first time, when I looked down at his tiny, perfect face, everything changed. All the pain, all the betrayal, all the hurt, it was still there. God knows it was still there. But it didn't matter anymore. Not in the same way. Because I had him. I had this beautiful, perfect little boy who depended on me completely, who needed me to be strong. So I became strong. I had to. Those first few years were hard. Harder than I can really describe. I worked every job I could find. I learned skills I never thought I'd need. I pushed through exhaustion and loneliness and moments of crushing despair. But I did it. I survived. We survived. And Kai became my whole world. My reason for getting up every morning. My reason for pushing through when things got tough. Is everything to me. I watched him grow from that tiny infant into a curious toddler, then into a bright, energetic child. I taught him to read and write. I told him stories. I held him when he had nightmares and celebrated with him when he accomplished something new. I was there for every milestone, every scraped knee, every moment of joy and fear and wonder. I did it all alone, without Alaric, without anyone, and I was proud of that. I am proud of that. I built something real here, something solid. Kai and I, we have our own little world. It's not grand or impressive. We don't have much, but it's ours. It's real. It's honest. The years passed. 5 of them. 5 years of building this life, of becoming someone stronger than the naive girl who'd fallen for a king's empty promises. I thought I'd left all of that behind. The pain was still there. That kind of hurt doesn't just disappear, but I'd learned to live with it. I'd learned to build walls around it, to keep it contained where it couldn't hurt me quite so much. I told myself I was over it. Over him. I told myself that chapter of my life was closed, finished, done. And then one day, everything changed. It started with rumors. Whispers in the market about the Alpha King, about changes in the court. At first, I didn't pay attention. Why would I? That world had nothing to do with me anymore. I'd made sure of that. But the rumors persisted.
Grew.
And then I started hearing things that made my blood run cold. Things about the king searching for something.
Someone.
An Omega and a child. His child. I tried to convince myself it wasn't about us.
It couldn't be.
He'd made his choice 5 years ago. He'd walked away without a backward glance. Why would he care now? Why would he come looking for us after all this time? But deep down, I knew. I knew it was only a matter of time. And then one evening there was a knock at my door. I'll never forget that moment. I was making dinner, Kai was playing with his wooden toys in the corner, and everything was normal. Peaceful.
Ours.
And then came that knock, firm, authoritative, impossible to ignore. I knew before I opened it. Don't ask me how, but I knew. And there he was. King Alaric. Standing on my doorstep like he had every right to be there. Like 5 years hadn't passed. Like he hadn't destroyed me and walked away without a second thought. He looked different. Older, maybe. More tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. But he was still him, still powerful, still commanding, still carrying that presence that made you want to bow, even if you hated him. For a moment, we just stared at each other. And I felt everything come rushing back. All the pain, all the anger, all the hurt I'd spent 5 years trying to bury. It crashed over me like a wave, threatening to pull me under. But I didn't let it. I held his gaze, and I didn't let it. Elara, he said.
Just my name.
Like that explained anything. Like that made anything okay.
I didn't respond.
I couldn't. My throat was too tight. I've come to take my pup, he said. My pup. He called Kai's pup. After 5 years of silence. 5 years of absence. 5 years of pretending we didn't exist. And now he shows up and claims ownership like it's his right. The anger that went through me in that moment. I can't even describe it. It was white-hot and all-consuming. It burned through every other emotion until there was nothing left but rage. But you already abandoned him, I said. The words came out sharp.
Cutting.
Exactly as I meant them to. I watched him flinch. Actually flinch. Good. I wanted him to hurt. I wanted him to feel even a fraction of what I'd felt. Elara, No. I interrupted. You don't get to do this. You don't get to show up here after 5 years and act like you have any right to him.
To us.
You made your choice. You chose your pride, your reputation, your perfect life over us. You don't get to take it back now. Things have changed, he said, and there was something in his voice I didn't recognize. Something that almost sounded like pain. I've changed. I laughed. I actually laughed, though there was no humor in it.
People don't change. Not like that.
Not about things that matter. Elara, please. Just let me explain. Explain what? How you abandoned your pregnant mate. How you sent me away like I was trash to be disposed of. How you let your son grow up without a father, because I wasn't good enough for you. Each word was a weapon. I wanted them to be weapons. I wanted them to cut him the way he'd cut me. Kai had stopped playing. I could feel his eyes on us, could sense his confusion and fear. He didn't understand who this man was or why his mother was so angry. And that broke my heart even more. Because my son didn't even know his own father. Because this man had made sure of that. Go inside, baby, I said to Kai, gentling my voice for him even though everything inside me was screaming. Go to your room for a bit. I need to talk to this man. Kai looked between us, uncertain. But he trusted me. He'd always trusted me. So he went. Once he was gone, I turned back to Alaric. You need to leave, I said.
Now.
I can't do that. You can. You did it once before, remember? You're very good at walking away. Elara, I'm not leaving without my son. Your son. The words tasted bitter. You don't have a son. You have an heir you suddenly decided you need. But Kai? Kai is my son. Mine. I'm the one who raised him. I'm the one who was there for every fever, every nightmare, every small triumph.
Me, not you.
So don't you dare stand there and call him yours. We stood there, locked in this battle of wills. And I could see the conflict in his eyes. The struggle. Part of me, a very small, very stupid part, wondered if he actually felt something. Regret, maybe.
Guilt.
Something. But it didn't matter. Feelings didn't change what he'd done. Feelings didn't give back the 5 years we'd lost. Feelings didn't explain to a little boy why his father had never wanted him. I made a mistake, Alaric said finally, and his voice was rough.
Raw.
I know I did. I was young and stupid and scared. I let my advisors convince me that you weren't suitable, that a king couldn't. Stop, I said. Just stop. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't care if you were scared or if your advisors told you no. You were supposed to care about me, about us. But you didn't. You cared more about your image than about your own child. That's not fair. Fair. I stepped closer to him, and I could feel tears burning in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when you sent me away? Was it fair when I had to go through pregnancy alone? Was it fair when I had to figure out how to be a mother with no support, no help, nothing? Don't you dare talk to me about fair. He looked like I'd struck him. And maybe my words had. Maybe they'd finally gotten through whatever armor he wore. I want to make it right, he said quietly. You can't. Some things, once they're broken, they can't be fixed. Not completely. But I can try. Elara, I can try. I want to be in his life. I want to be a father to him. And what about me? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Vulnerable. Exposing parts of me I'd tried to keep hidden. What about what you did to me? His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real emotion there. Real pain. I can't take back what I did to you. I can't undo the hurt. But I'm asking you, begging you, to give me a chance. Let me try to be the father Kai deserves. The father I should have been from the beginning. And there it was. The question I'd been dreading. The choice I'd been hoping I'd never have to make. Because here's the thing, I wanted to hate him. God, I wanted to hate him with every fiber of my being. I wanted to slam the door in his face and tell him to go to hell. I wanted to protect Kai from ever experiencing the pain of being abandoned by this man again. But I also knew what it was like to grow up without a father. I knew the questions that would come as Kai got older. I knew the hole that absence could leave. And despite everything, despite all the hurt and anger and betrayal, I could see something in Alaric's eyes that I hadn't expected to see. Sincerity. Real, genuine regret. The kind that sits in your chest like a stone and doesn't go away no matter how much you want it to. I don't know if I can do this, I said honestly. I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if I can let you into his life, knowing you might hurt him the way you hurt me. I understand, Alaric said. I do. But I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the same man who let you go. Then who are you? He was quiet for a long moment. I'm a man who's spent 5 years regretting the worst decision of his life. I'm a man who's realized that all the power and status in the world doesn't mean anything if you've lost the people who truly matter. I'm a man who wants to know his son, who wants to make amends, if that's even possible. I wanted to believe him. Part of me, that small part that had once loved him so desperately, wanted so badly to believe that people could change, that he could change. But the rest of me, the part that had survived his abandonment, that had built a life from nothing, that had learned to be strong, that part was terrified. Terrified of letting him back in only to be hurt again. Terrified of letting Kai get attached only to have Alaric decide we still weren't good enough. I need time, I said finally. I need to think about this.
This isn't just about me.
It's about Kai. And I won't make a decision that could hurt him without thinking it through completely. Alaric nodded slowly. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be staying in the village inn. When you're ready to talk, you know where to find me. He turned to leave, then paused. Elara? What? Thank you. For raising him. For being strong enough to do it alone. I know I have no right to say this, but thank you. And then he was gone, leaving me standing in my doorway with my heart racing and my mind spinning. I went inside and found Kai waiting for me, his big eyes full of questions. Mama? Who was that man? How do you answer that? How do you explain to a 5-year-old that the stranger at the door is his father? That he's the reason you've been alone all this time? That he's both a source of pain and potentially a source of healing? That's someone I used to know, baby. Someone who wants to meet you. Why? It's complicated. Kai considered this with the seriousness only a child can muster. Is he nice? Is he nice? What a question. What an impossible question. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But we're going to find out together, okay? That night, after Kai was asleep, I sat by the window and let myself think. Really think. The easy thing would be to send Alaric away. To protect myself and Kai from any potential hurt. To keep our little world safe and closed off from him. But was that fair? Was that right? I thought about Kai and the questions he'd already started asking. Where's my papa? Why don't I have a father like the other kids? Did he not want me? I'd managed to deflect those questions so far, but they were getting harder to avoid. And they would only get more frequent, more pointed as he got older. I thought about Alaric's eyes when he looked at me. The regret there. The pain. Could that be faked? Was he really that good an actor? Or was it possible, just possible, that he genuinely wanted to change? That he'd spent these 5 years growing and realizing what he'd lost? I thought about my own childhood, about the father I'd never known, about the hole that left in my heart. Did I want that for Kai? Did I want him to grow up with that same emptiness, that same wondering? But then I thought about the alternative. About letting Alaric in, about Kai getting attached, about building hope and trust. And then, what if he left again? What if this was just temporary? What if he decided that being a father was harder than he thought, or that we still didn't fit into his life? The pain of that would be so much worse than never knowing him at all. I was caught between protecting my son from potential hurt and giving him the opportunity to know his father. Between my own fear and anger and the possibility, just the possibility, that maybe, just maybe, things could be different this time. It was an impossible choice. And it was mine to make. The days that followed were strange. Surreal. Alaric kept his distance, staying at the inn as promised, but I could feel his presence in the village. People whispered about the important visitor, speculated about why he was here. I deflected questions with vague answers and tried to go about my normal routine. But everything felt different now. The life I'd built, the peace I'd found, it all felt fragile suddenly. Like one wrong move could shatter everything. Kai asked about the man a few more times. I told him we'd talk about it soon, when I had things figured out. He accepted this with the easy trust of childhood, and it made my heart ache. Because that trust was exactly what I was trying to protect. I found myself thinking about Alaric at odd moments, remembering the good times we'd had before everything fell apart. The way he used to make me laugh. The way he'd look at me like I was the only person in the world. The way his touch used to make me feel safe and cherished and seen. And then I'd remember the way he'd looked at me when I told him I was pregnant. The coldness. The rejection. The way he'd sent me away like I was nothing. The memories warred with each other, leaving me confused and angry and sad all at once. A week after Alaric's arrival, I was at the market when I saw him. He was standing by one of the stalls, looking out of place in his fine clothes among the simple village folk. Our eyes met across the square, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Then he started walking toward me. Every instinct told me to turn and leave. To avoid this conversation, this confrontation, whatever it was going to be. But I stood my ground. I'd been running from this for a week. Maybe it was time to face it. "Elara," he said when he reached me. "How are you?" "Fine," I said, though it was a lie. "What do you want, Alaric?"
Just to talk. Please. Can we talk?
I looked around at the curious faces turned our way, the whispers starting to spread. "Not here," I said. "The grove at the edge of the village. Half an hour." He nodded and walked away, leaving me with my racing heart and sweating palms. What was I doing? Why was I agreeing to meet with him? What was there left to say? But I went. Of course I went. Because as much as I wanted to pretend otherwise, I needed answers. I needed to understand why now. Why, after 5 years, he suddenly cared. He was already there when I arrived, standing among the trees with his hands in his pockets. He looked nervous. The great Alpha King, nervous. It would have been funny if the situation weren't so serious. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I'm not here to forgive you," I said bluntly. "I'm here because I need to understand. Why now? Why after all this time?" Alaric was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "I was a coward," he said finally. 5 years ago, I was terrified. Of what people would think. Of what it would mean for my rule. Of everything that mattered so much less than it should have. That's not an answer. I know. I'm trying to. He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I spent the last 5 years trying to convince myself I'd made the right choice. That duty came first. That a king couldn't afford to choose personal happiness over the good of the kingdom. I built walls around the memory of you, of us, and I tried to forget. Congratulations. It worked. The words were bitter. It didn't, he said softly. It didn't work at all. Every day, I thought about you, about the child, about the choice I'd made. And every day, it ate at me a little more. If it bothered you so much, why wait 5 years?
Pride.
Stubbornness.
Fear.
Take your pick. He looked at me, and his eyes were raw with emotion. I kept telling myself I couldn't undo it, that too much time had passed, that you'd hate me too much to ever forgive me. I used every excuse I could find to avoid facing what I'd done. So what changed? I did. Or maybe I just finally ran out of excuses. He stepped closer, and I resisted the urge to step back. 6 months ago, one of my advisors died. Old Counselor Brennan. Do you remember him? I did. He'd been one of the loudest voices urging Alaric to send me away. On his deathbed, he told me he regretted it. Regretted pushing me to abandon you. He said he'd watched me become harder, colder over the years. Less human. And he blamed himself for it. For convincing me to choose duty over love. Alaric's voice cracked slightly on that last word.
He told me I still had time. Time to make it right.
Time to find you and beg your forgiveness. Time to know my child. He looked at me, and I could see tears in his eyes. He died the next day. And I realized he was right. I'd wasted 5 years already. I couldn't waste any more. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel sympathy for him, for the pain I could hear in his voice. But another part, the part that had survived his abandonment, was still too angry. That's a very moving story, I said, and I hated how cold I sounded. But it doesn't change anything. You still left. You still chose your precious duty over us. I know. And I can't undo that. But I can try to do better now. I can try to be the father Kai deserves. The partner you deserved 5 years ago. Partner? The word came out sharper than I intended. Is that what you think this is? You think you can just waltz back into my life, and we'll pick up where we left off?
No. God, no.
I know I destroyed whatever we had. I'm not asking you to love me again, Elara. I'm not even asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to let me know my son. To let me try to make amends in whatever way I can. I turned away from him, trying to process everything he'd said. Trying to separate the hurt and anger from what was actually best for Kai. What about your advisors? I asked. The ones who told you I wasn't good enough? Are they suddenly okay with you having an Omega mate and a bastard son? I don't care what they think anymore, Alaric said firmly. I've spent 5 years letting other people dictate my choices. I'm done with that.
My son is not a bastard. He's my heir.
And you're my mate. The only one I've ever wanted, even when I was too stupid to admit it. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your mate.
Right.
Because that meant so much to you before. I know I don't deserve your trust. I know I've given you every reason to hate me. But I'm asking, begging, for a chance. Just a chance to prove I've changed. I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect myself, protect Kai, protect the life we'd built. But I kept thinking about those questions Kai would ask someday. About the father he didn't know. And I kept thinking about the pain in Alaric's eyes, the sincerity I could hear in his voice. Could people really change? Could someone who'd hurt you so deeply become someone worthy of trust again? I didn't know. I honestly didn't know. If I agree to this, and that's a big if, it won't be easy, I said finally. You can't just sweep in and expect Kai to accept you immediately. You can't expect me to forget everything that happened. You'll have to earn his trust. And mine. I understand. And the very first time, I think you're going to hurt him, it's over. You'll leave and never come back. Are we clear? Crystal clear. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. You can meet him.
Properly. Tomorrow.
But we take this slow. You don't get to be his father overnight. You have to build that relationship. The relief on Alaric's face was almost painful to see. Thank you, Elara. Thank you. I promise I won't let you down. You already did, I said quietly. Don't do it again. That night I talked to Kai. Really talked to him. I sat him down and tried to explain, in terms a 5-year-old could understand, that the man he'd seen was his father. That he'd been away for a long time, but he wanted to meet Kai now. That it was okay if Kai wasn't sure how he felt about that. Kai listened with wide eyes, processing this information with the seriousness he applied to everything important. Does he want to be my papa? He asked. He says he does. Why wasn't he before? How do you answer that? How do you explain adult mistakes and selfishness and fear to a child? Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, I said carefully. Sometimes they do things they regret. He made a bad choice, and he wasn't here when he should have been. But he wants to fix that now. Are you mad at him? I hesitated. Honesty. I'd always promised Kai honesty. Yes, I said. I am mad at him. But I'm also trying to give him a chance. Because everyone deserves a chance to do better. Do you understand? Kai nodded slowly. Can I meet him? Tomorrow. If you want to. Okay. He paused, then asked in a small voice. Mama? What if I don't like him? I pulled him close, holding him tight. Then we'll figure it out together. You never have to like someone just because they're family. You get to decide how you feel. Okay. Okay. The next day, I brought Kai to the village square where I'd arranged to meet Alaric. My heart was pounding, and I held Kai's hand maybe a little tighter than necessary. Alaric was already there, and when he saw us approaching, his entire face transformed. The hardness, the kingly reserve, it all melted away, leaving something raw and vulnerable and hopeful. He knelt down so he was at Kai's level, and for a long moment, they just looked at each other. Father and son, meeting for the first time, even though Kai was 5 years old. "Hello, Kai," Alaric said, and his voice was thick with emotion. I'm your father." Kai pressed closer to me, suddenly shy. "Hello," he said in a small voice. "I've wanted to meet you for a long time," Alaric continued. "Your mother tells me you like to build things?" Kai nodded, relaxing slightly at the mention of one of his favorite activities. "I like building too. Maybe sometime you could show me what you're working on." Another nod, this one a little more enthusiastic. I watched them, these two people who shared blood but were complete strangers, trying to find common ground. And something in my chest loosened just a little, just enough to let in the smallest sliver of hope. Maybe this could work. Maybe, just maybe, we could find a way forward. The weeks that followed were strange and difficult, and sometimes beautiful. Alaric came to visit every day, always respectful of the boundaries I'd set, always patient with Kai's hesitation. He brought small gifts, nothing extravagant, just little things that showed he'd been listening. A new set of building blocks. A book about dragons. A wooden sword when Kai mentioned wanting to learn to fight like the warriors in his stories. I watched as Kai slowly warmed to him. Watched as the shy hellos turned into excited chatter about whatever project Kai was working on. Watched as my son started to smile when he saw Alaric approaching, started to reach for his hand without prompting. It was everything I'd hoped for and everything I'd feared. Because with every bond that formed between them, I worried more about what would happen if Alaric left again. But he didn't leave. Days turned into weeks, and he was still there. Still showing up. Still trying. And as much as I wanted to stay angry, to keep my walls up, to protect myself from being hurt again, it was getting harder. Because I could see that he'd changed. The man who visited us every day, who got down on the floor to play with building blocks, who listened patiently to Kai's rambling stories, he wasn't the same man who'd sent me away 5 years ago. This man was softer. More present. More human. One evening, after Kai had gone to bed, Alaric lingered at the door. "Can we talk?" he asked. I hesitated, then nodded. We sat on the small bench outside my cottage, the night air cool around us. "I want you to know," Alaric said quietly, "that I understand if you can never forgive me. If you can never trust me again. I understand that." "Okay," I said, not sure where this was going. "But I also want you to know that I'm not going anywhere. Whether you forgive me or not, whether you let me into your life or not, I'm going to be here for Kai. I'm going to be the father I should have been from the beginning." "I believe you," I said, and I was surprised to realize I meant it. "Elara." He turned to look at me, and even in the dim light, I could see the intensity in his eyes. "I still love you. I never stopped. And I know I have no right to say that after what I did, but it's the truth. I love you. And if there's even the smallest chance that someday you might be able to love me again, don't," I said, cutting him off. "Don't do this.
Not now."
"I'm sorry. I just needed you to know." We sat in silence for a while, and I tried to sort through the tangle of emotions in my chest. Because the truth was, I didn't know how I felt about him anymore. There was still anger, yes. Still hurt. Still the memory of all that pain. But there was also something else. Something that stirred when he looked at me with those sad, hopeful eyes. Something that remembered what it had been like to love him before everything fell apart. "I'm not there yet," I said finally. "I don't know if I'll ever be there again. But I'm not saying it's impossible." The smile that spread across his face was like watching the sun rise. "That's enough," he said. "That's more than enough." And maybe it was. Maybe that tiny sliver of possibility was enough to build on. The truth is, I'm still figuring this out. I'm still trying to decide if I can really trust him again. If I can really let him back into my heart the way he's let himself back into Kai's life.
Some days, I think maybe I can. I see him with Kai, see the love and pride in his eyes, and I think maybe people can change. Maybe second chances are real. Other days, I remember the pain. I remember the rejection. I remember what it felt like to be abandoned, and I think I'm crazy for even considering letting him back in. But I'm trying. For Kai's sake, and maybe for my own sake too, I'm trying. Because here's what I've learned. Life isn't black and white. People aren't all good or all bad. We're all just trying to do our best with the information and strength we have at the time. And sometimes, people make terrible mistakes. Sometimes they hurt the people they love in ways that seem unforgivable. But sometimes, just sometimes, they find the courage to come back. To admit they were wrong. To try to make things right. Alaric was a coward 5 years ago. He chose pride over love, duty over family. He made the wrong choice, and he hurt me in ways I'm still healing from. But he came back. He's trying. And I have to decide if that's enough. I don't have all the answers yet. I don't know how this story ends. I don't know if Alaric and I will find our way back to each other, or if we'll just be two people co-parenting a child we both love. But I know this. I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm stronger now. Wiser. More sure of myself and what I deserve. And I won't settle for less than that, no matter how much history Alaric and I share. If he wants to be part of our lives, really part of them, he'll have to prove it. Every day. Not with words or grand gestures, but with consistency. With showing up. With being the man and the father we both deserve. And maybe if he can do that, maybe there's hope for us after all. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Right now, I'm taking it one day at a time. Watching. Waiting. Seeing if this change is real or if it's just temporary. Protecting my heart while trying to stay open to the possibility that maybe, just maybe, things could be different this time. So, I guess what I'm asking you is, what do you think? Do people really change? Can someone who hurt you so deeply ever really earn back your trust? I wish I knew the answer. I wish someone could tell me with absolute certainty what the right choice is. But life doesn't work that way. We just have to make the best decisions we can with the information we have and hope we're doing right by the people we love. For now, I'm choosing to give Alaric a chance. Not for me, not yet, but for Kai. Because every child deserves to know their father if that father is willing to be present and loving and consistent. And who knows? Maybe in the process of watching him be a father to our son, I'll learn to trust him again. Maybe I'll even learn to love him again. Or maybe I won't. Maybe we'll always just be two people bound together by the child we created, doing our best to give him a good life even if we can't find our way back to each other. I don't know. And I'm okay with not knowing. Because for the first time in 5 years, I feel like I'm not alone in this. Like there's someone else who cares about Kai as much as I do. Like, maybe, just maybe, we can figure this out together. It's terrifying and exhilarating and confusing all at once. But it's also hopeful. And I haven't felt hopeful in a long time. So, I'm going to hold on to that. I'm going to take it day by day, moment by moment. I'm going to protect my son and my heart while staying open to the possibility that sometimes people really do change. And I'm going to trust that whatever happens, I'm strong enough to handle it. Because I've already survived the worst. I've already rebuilt myself from nothing. And I can do it again if I have to. But maybe, just maybe, I won't have to. Maybe this time, things will be different. Maybe this time he'll stay. And maybe this time, that will be enough. I guess we'll see. But I want to know what you think. Really. Because I'm still trying to figure this out, and sometimes it helps to hear from someone outside the situation. Someone who can see things more clearly than I can when I'm right in the middle of it all. Should I forgive him? Should I let him all the way back in? Or should I keep my guard up? Can someone who abandoned their child really change? Or am I being naive all over again? These are the questions that keep me up at night. The questions I turn over and over in my mind, trying to find answers that feel right. And I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I'm trying to figure it out. One day at a time. One moment at a time. So tell me, what would you do in my position? Would you give him a second chance? Or would you protect yourself and your child from the possibility of being hurt again? I really want to know, because maybe your perspective will help me see something I'm missing. Maybe you'll say something that will make everything click into place. Or maybe you'll just confirm what I already know deep down, that there's no easy answer, that this is messy and complicated, and there's no one right way to handle it. Either way, I'd like to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Should I let the Alpha King back into our lives? Can I ever really trust him again? Because right now, I'm standing at a crossroads. And the choice I make will affect not just me, but my son, our future, everything we've built, and everything we might still build. It's a lot of pressure, a lot of weight to carry. But I'll carry it, because that's what mothers do. We carry the weight, so our children don't have to. I just hope I'm strong enough to make the right choice. And I hope that whatever happens, Kai will be okay. That he'll grow up happy and loved and secure, whether that's with just me or with both of his parents. That's all I really want. For my son to be okay. Everything else, well, we'll figure it out as we go. Thank you for listening to my story. For letting me share all of this with you. It helps, to get it all out. To say it all out loud, instead of just turning it over and over in my head. So thank you. Really. And if you want to hear what happens next, if you want to know how this all turns out, make sure you stick around. Hit that like button. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. Because this story isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. There's more to come. More decisions to make. More moments of doubt and hope and fear and possibility. And I'd like to have you along for the ride. Because sometimes it's easier to face these things when you know someone else is listening. When you know you're not completely alone. So what do you say? Will you stay with me? Will you help me figure this out? I hope so. Because I have a feeling the hardest parts are still ahead. But I'm ready. Or at least, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. And with you here listening and supporting and sharing your thoughts, maybe I can actually do this. Maybe we can figure out together. One day at a time. One moment at a time. One choice at a time. Until we find our way to whatever ending this story is meant to have. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for caring enough to help me through this. It means more than you know.